Assalamualaikum girls. Assalamualaikum. Today we are going to study about cellular structures and fission and functions, because before that we studied about all these scientists, and I'm not teaching you a cellular particle deliberately because वो समझ नहीं आएगा आपको. So we are starting about cellular structures and functions and leaving the microscope behind. Because it's a bit easy to understand. So you know that what is the basic organization of a cell. You are familiar with it. A cell consists of plasma membrane, and in plant cell it has cell wall too, and there's a nucleus and other organelles in it, like mitochondria, Golgi bodies, chloroplast, endoplasmic reticulum, and so on and so forth. How a cell is created? It is created by the assemblage of these organelles. Some of the structures are not organelles, but still very important for cell, like cell wall. These are not considered as organelles. These are important cellular structures like cell wall, cell membrane, cytoplasm, and cytoskeleton. But we study them. But organelles are mitochondria, Golgi bodies, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex. अच्छा वही हो गया. Or vesicle like lysosomes, vacuoles, etc. So we will study first the important cellular structures which are not organelles, like cell wall. We will start from it. You know that cell wall is a very important organelle. Okay. When I was making diagrams, I have shown different diagrams of plant cells having cell wall. I have made the diagram of a plant cell, and I'm sure up till now आप लोग diagram बना चुके हैं. Look at this cell wall of the plant cell. It has many pores in it, called as plasmodesmata. When I was making the diagram, I have shown it to you. All these hole-like structures are connecting the cell cytoplasm with other cell. Cell wall is so thick and so rigid structure, it will not allow transportation. Only these holes in cell wall will connect one cytoplasm with another cytoplasm. Okay, you know this is smooth endoplasmic reticulum. This one is rough endoplasmic reticulum, vacuole, mitochondria, lysosomes, chloroplast in plant cells. This is also chloroplast. Peroxisomes. I think आप इसको vacuole consider करें. Peroxisome आप लोगों को नहीं मालूम. Golgi apparatus, nucleus, nucleolus, cytoplasm, Golgi vesicles. I can't see this. This is basically Golgi vesicles. And nuclear pores, nuclear envelope, nucleolus, nucleoplast. This is all about nucleus, ribosomes, etc. So this cell wall is a protective organelle. I have not protective organelle, protective cellular structure. Going back to the previous slide, I have divided the whole topic into different subheadings. You can also learn the topic in this way. I will teach according to the flow in your book, according to the sequence in your book. So the first and foremost subheading is presence of cell wall, where it is present. It is not present in animal cell, okay? Animal cell doesn't have cell wall. Only the plant cells and plant-like organelles have cell wall. animal cells. And animal-like cells have no cell wall. Okay, what is the location of cell wall? It is the outermost cellular structure present outside the plasma membrane. प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन के यहाँ पर प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन है, द येलो वन कहीं पे हेडिंग है, दिस वन, यहाँ पर इसको सेल मेम्ब्रेन कह रहे हैं, तो सेल मेम्ब्रेन के बाहर है सेल वॉल. Cell wall is the outermost structure located. It is the structure which is present outside the cell membrane. Okay, or plasma membrane. It's the same thing. What is the function of cell wall? The cell wall is giving shape, strength, protection, and support. You can see it is giving a particular shape to the plant cell. Otherwise, plant cell doesn't have any shape. It gives it rigidity, protection, and support to the plant cell. As it's a bit rigid structure, and plant doesn't have skeleton, plant doesn't have bones, so they need certain support which comes from cell wall as well. Apart from roots, plants also get protection from cell wall, and there are other things which support them in to be in the aerial position. यूं खड़े हो जाना हवा में बगैर skeleton के. So cell wall is the one thing, roots is another thing, and I will tell you the phenomena of turgidity later on. और वहाँ पर सारे points discuss करूँगी. कि plants can stand in aerial position. How? Without even having any skeleton. ठीक है. So after that, let's talk about the chemical composition of cell wall. How it is composed. Cell wall is actually categorized into two categories, primary cell wall and secondary cell wall. But before going into the detail of primary cell wall and secondary cell wall, I must tell you that primary cell wall is present in every plant cell, but secondary cell wall is not present in every plant cell. It's rarely found. It is found in some of the cells, but not in all. The primary cell wall is present in every plant cell. It is the outermost layer and the major component of primary cell wall, the major chemical is cellulose in plants. Cellulose is the polymer which makes primary cell wall. Secondary cell wall. As I told you earlier, the secondary cell wall is not found in all cells. It is found in some of the cells, like xylem tissues, like xylem cells in plants have secondary cell wall. So जहाँ पे भी secondary cell wall होगी, it will make that cell rigid. It will make the cell wall a bit more thick. It is present on the inner side of primary. The outermost layer is primary cell wall, and inside the primary cell wall is secondary cell wall, which is much thicker, and it is made up of a chemical called as lignin. I repeat, it is made up of a chemical called lignin. Lignin is the one which acts like a cement into the pores. जैसे होती है ना ईंटों की दीवार, लेकिन सीमेंट ना लगा हो, प्लास्टर ना हुआ हो, तो there are so many holes, so many crevices in the wall. अगर सीमेंट ना लगा हो, सीमेंट जब आप करते हैं तो हर crevice और pore को cover कर देता है like a coat, or makes the wall smooth. So is the case with lignin. It acts like filling all the holes in the cell wall. Okay. Coming back to the next point, which is pores in the cell wall. I told you earlier that there are pores in the cell wall, pores, which are called as plasmodesmata. These pores are the ones which are making the cytoplasm connected with other cells. See here. These plasmodesmata are connecting the two cells or other cells together. This is, I think, all about cell wall. Now there is one point left: chemical composition of cell wall. I must tell you the two diagrams. ये cell wall में जो arrangement है, this is basically criss-cross arrangement. If you look at this diagram, the different layers of primary cell wall and secondary cell wall are arranged in criss-cross arrangement. ऊपर एक दूसरे के ऊपर हैं these microfibrils structures. कभी आप कॉलेज के white board में I will show you how to make criss-cross arrangement. Let me tell you. चलो white board पे बताती हूँ. Criss-cross arrangement इस तरह से होती है. इससे बहुत सारी लेयर्स हैं फिब्रिल की इस तरह से बराबर 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 और क्रॉस कैसे हो गया ऐसे यानी बहुत सारी लेयर आउच ऊपर नीचे मेकिंग इट स्ट्रॉन्गर स्ट्रक्चर. अब इमेजिन कर लेना बहुत सारी फिब्रिल्स हैं which is making the cell wall a stronger structure. ऐसे सीधी लाइनें नहीं लग रही. This is how a cell wall is made. Okay, this is how a cell wall is made, stable structure, and it is called as criss-cross arrangement. मेरी lines are not that straight. आप लोगों ने lines को straight करना है, ठीक है? तो आपको चीज clear हो जाएगी. What is a criss-cross arrangement? Look at the electron microscope, scanning electron microscope of a microscopic image of cell wall. Can you see the criss-cross arrangement? It makes cell wall strong. ऊपर नीचे layers हैं fibrins की, and it makes the cell wall strong. Acha, what is the chemical composition of cell wall in different organisms? It is not the same. In fungi, the cell wall is made up of chitin, while in prokaryotes, जो कि bacteria-like organisms होते हैं, मैं आपको clarify करूँगी. These bacteria-like organisms doesn't have a proper nucleus. इस तरह से nucleus नहीं होता. The prokaryote cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan, which is a polymer made up of amino acids and simple sugars. So prokaryotic cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan, while in plants, I told you earlier, the cell wall is made up of cellulose and lignin. Simple cellulose is also correct. Two chemicals are involved, cellulose and lignin. You can simplify this point as it is mentioned in your book in this way. All the organisms have different chemical composition. Fungi की ऐसे है, animals की ऐसे है, plants की ऐसे है. Okay? So this is all about cell wall. Now I'll move to another topic, which is cell membrane. You know, cell membrane is the thin elastic layer present inside the cell wall. Like in an animal cell, it is the outermost layer, stretchable, thin elastic layer, which is covering the cell in animals, while in plant cells, it is present inside the cell wall. It is not the outermost layer in plant cells, but it is the outermost layer in animal cells. So it's a thin elastic cell membrane. Achha? These are the subheadings of cell membrane. You can write it down, and I'm not writing the complete sentence, but the first sentence is structure of cell membrane, Then the function of cell membrane is mentioned. Then maintenance of internal composition. Then on the next page, it is identification of other cells. Then the next paragraph is chemical composition of cell membrane. Then we will talk about fluid mosaic model and the last point. So these are all the headings of cell membrane. What is the function of cell membrane? It is actually a semi-permeable barrier. Now I have to explain what is a permeable barrier. Barrier is something which is actually obstructing the entrance. कोई चीज है जो रुकावट बन रही है, but it is permeable. Permeable means जिससे कोई चीज गुजर सकती हो आराम से आगे पीछे, pass on हो सकती हो. But what is semi-permeable means? That plasma membrane is semi-permeable here, which allows some of the molecules to pass through it and does not allow other molecules to pass through it. And it allows only few things to pass through it. It is semi-permeable membrane. And it is, मैं कहने लगी थी, it is yellow in color. No, sorry for that. क्योंकि बीच में ही थोड़ी सी मीन्स आ रहा है और मैं येलो कलर का इसको बोलने लगी थी, which is wrong. It doesn't have color. The organelles doesn't have color. These are all animated pictures for our ease. Otherwise, all of them are colorless, especially in the electron microscopic images. So, what is its function? That it maintains internal composition, maintenance of internal composition. As I told you, it's a barrier. It's a semi-permeable barrier, which allows few molecules to enter it and does not allow majority of the molecules to pass through it. So it is allowing few things to enter and does not allow few other things to leave the cell. As a result, cytoplasm, it has a certain percentage of chemicals. The plasma membrane is maintaining that internal composition of cytoplasm. कि कितने अमाउंट में कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स हैं, कितनी प्रोटीन्स हैं, क्या है क्या नहीं है. Plasma membrane is maintaining that. What is the other function of cell membrane? It can identify other cells. It can also sense chemical messages coming from other cells and can identify other cells. Basically, the cell membrane has certain protein structures which act like receptors or sensors, which sense that what other chemicals are entering into the plasma membrane and which chemical compounds are leaving the plasma membrane. And they can sense those messages by having protein receptors in the plasma membrane. I will show you the diagram. There are protein receptors in the plasma membrane which also sense the messages. कौन सा chemical enter हो रहा है, ये जो है ना ये protein molecules यहाँ पे और ये यहाँ पर. They can sense which molecule is entering into the plasma membrane, which molecule is leaving the plasma membrane. और ये कैसे सारा हो रहा है? It is happening by the plasma membrane, which is identifying all these other cells. Now the next point is chemical composition of plasma membrane. As I told you that how the internal composition is maintained of especially of cytoplasm, it is by plasma membrane. But यहाँ पर हम बात कर रहे हैं what is the composition of plasma membrane. किस चीज से बना हुआ plasma membrane? Plasma membrane itself is made up of proteins and lipids, and small amount of carbohydrates are embedded into it. Proteins and lipids together makes plasma membrane, and carbohydrates are also present. So different models were presented कि plasma membrane होती कैसे है, यानी protein layer और lipid layer और carbohydrate किस तरह से अटैच है. Microscope ही नहीं थी. जब माइक्रोस्कोप आई, even then light microscope cannot show the detail. तो बहुत सारी टेक्निक्स देखी हुई है. It is actually the electron microscope which can show you plasma membrane and which can tell us the chemical composition of the plasma membrane or arrangement of plasma membrane is shown by electron microscope. Different models were presented जिसमें mention किया जाता है कि protein is like a lipid, it is like a sandwich where lipid molecules are sandwiched in between it. और ऐसे भी कहा गया कि lipid is acting like the sandwich slices and protein molecules are embedded into it. ऐसे क्या तो that model, different model थे जो कि ऐसे में कह रही हूँ. Different models were proposed, but all those models were not accepted. The most reliable model to present lipid bilayer or to present the chemical composition of plasma membrane, it is fluid mosaic model. What is a fluid mosaic model? I told you that fluid mosaic model is like a lipid bilayer. It consists of a lipid bilayer and protein molecules and small amount of carbohydrate, but the arrangement is like this. एक लेयर ये वाली लिपिड की है और एक लेयर ये है लिपिड की नीचे की तरफ. these balls and two fibril like structure is one lipid molecule. ऊपर लेयर एक स्लाइस, I mean it looks like slice, okay, एक पूरी लेयर. नीचे की लेयर तो we are calling it as lipid bilayer or phospholipid bilayer. please phospholipid से परेशान ना हो, leave it. आप मैं बता सकती हूँ आपको, लेकिन अभी मैं नहीं बता रही. This is how you can understand the easy version of a diagram, that this is lipid bilayer, one layer and two layer, and protein molecules are embedded in it. Some of the proteins are fully embedded completely. ऊपर वाली चेन में भी है, नीचे भी चेन में भी है, completely embed हुई भी है, घुसी हुई है, like a toothpick. सैंडविच में से टूथपिक गुजरती है ना, वैसे कुछ होती हैं जो आधी गुजरती हैं, इसमें नहीं है, यहाँ पर ही रुक जाती हैं. ऊपर वाली लेयर में होती है, नीचे वाली लेयर में नहीं होती. नीचे वाली लेयर में होती है, ऊपर वाली लेयर में नहीं होती. So this is the protein molecules, and then there are glycoprotein and glycolipids. I have to tell you, protein molecules attached to the lipid, sorry, carbohydrate portion attached to the lipid one is called as glycolipid, and the carbohydrate which is attached to protein is called as glycoprotein. I repeat, the carbohydrate component or chain attached with the protein molecule is called as glycoprotein. But if it is attached to a lipid molecule, it is called as glycolipid. The lipid bilayer also have cholesterol molecules here in this diagram, but I'll show you. इधर इस diagram में label नहीं हुआ कहीं पे भी. I'll show you later on. यहाँ पर अंदर की तरफ थोड़ा सा कोलेस्ट्रॉल भी होता है, नॉट ज़्यादा. ओके, I've told you that the carbohydrate component binding with the protein is called as glycoprotein, and the carbohydrate component binding with the lipid is called as glycolipid. This fluid mosaic, this plasma membrane is in the form of a fluid and a mosaic. It's not solid. So because of that fluid nature and mosaic nature, it gives fluidity and elasticity to cell. I mean, the whole plasma membrane is a fluid-like structure and elastic structure. बिल्कुल पानी भी नहीं है, but running है. I'm sorry to say, but इस तरह से नहीं है कि गिर रहा है. It is fluidy kind of thing, but elastic, stretchable. These ball-like structure doesn't अच्छा, मोज़ैक क्या होता है? मोज़ैक एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आर्ट में आपने बनाया होगा, ग्लास का बनाया होगा मोज़ैक वर्क। डिफरेंट फॉर्म में डिफरेंट होता है। उसमें होता यही है कि डिफरेंट बॉल्स आर अटैच्ड टू इट, डिफरेंट बॉल लाइक स्ट्रक्चर्स आर फिक्स्ड। तो अगर आप इसको ऊपर से देखें कि बड़ी बॉल और छोटी बॉल और जैसे डिफरेंट साइजेस ऑफ बॉल्स आर देयर, इट इज कॉल्ड एज मोज़ैक आर्ट। यहाँ पर आर्ट नहीं कहेंगे, बट इट इज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ मोज़ैक। और फ्लूइड भी है। इट इज लाइक moving. The protein molecules are not static. Lipid molecules are not static. They are moving. Okay. So this movement of a lipid bilayer is like, teachers have told it earlier. आप exam में मत लिखें. It is like the ships floating on the surface of ocean. यानी समंदर की surface पर ships जो float कर रही है. Sorry. The fluid mosaic model looks like that. जिस तरह से पानी समंदर की सतह पर मूव करता है ना, स्टैटिक तो नहीं होता, और शिप्स भी मूव कर रही होती हैं, इसी तरह से ये प्रोटीन मॉलिक्यूल्स मूव कर रहे हैं। और लिपिड बायलेयर में लिपिड इज आल्सो मूविंग, बट स्टिल इट हैज अ स्ट्रक्चर व्हिच इज कॉल्ड एज द इलास्टिक स्ट्रक्चर। तो प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन इज द थिंग which gives fluidity and elasticity to cell. I told you cholesterol is also present into the lipid bilayer, but is not shown in this diagram. And I will maybe show you, you can check it out in your book. Cholesterol molecules are also present in lipid bilayer. Okay, now what the last heading of this topic is membrane of eukaryotic organelles. In eukaryotic cells, many organelles are also bonded by cell membrane. Actually, I want to tell you here कि जो मैंने composition ये बताई है fluid mosaic model की, this same composition is followed by mitochondrial membrane, chloroplast membrane, endoplasmic reticulum का membrane, vacuole का membrane. Every membrane, cell membrane, every organelle membrane is following the same principle of fluid mosaic model. Okay, so sorry, fluid mosaic model is, this cell membrane is following the principle of fluid mosaic model. All the organelles, whether it's mitochondria, Golgi bodies, endoplasmic reticulum, please ये हमारे जहन में नहीं होता था ये पॉइंट, इवन बड़ी क्लास तक, बट आप लोग ये जहन नशीन कर लें कि सेम कॉम्पोजिशन, सेम स्ट्रक्चर फॉलो किया जाता है ऑर्गेनील के मेम्ब्रेन में. All this membrane of organelles and plasma membrane together is called as cell membrane. जब कभी सेल मेम्ब्रेन मेंशन हो तो इसका मतलब है तमाम मेम्ब्रेन्स, चाहे द आउटर मोस्ट कवरिंग, चाहे माइटोकॉन्ड्रियल मेम्ब्रेन, चाहे क्लोरोप्लास्ट मेम्ब्रेन, एंडोप्लाज्मिक रेटिकुलम मेम्ब्रेन, और any membrane inside the cell follows this principle. And ठीक है, so this is all about today's lecture. One thing is missing. Okay, whenever you talk about all these membrane, mitochondrial membrane, chloroplast membrane, the outermost membrane layer of cell, then we call it as cell membrane. But when you specifically want to mention about the outermost layer, then you call it plasma membrane. The outermost layer has specific name called plasma membrane. तो आज मैं ये लेक्चर अब यहाँ पर वाइंड अप करूँ ताकि आपको फ्लूइड मोज़ैक मॉडल क्लियरली समझ में आ जाए. गर्ल्स, आपने ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है एग्जाम्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से और कंसेप्चुअल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. कीप दिस थिंग इन योर माइंड एंड आई से अल्लाह हाफिज.